this morning. I'm the Senior Associate Dean for Degree Programs and Student Affairs, and I hear that this is a record-breaking reunion, so congratulations. It's my distinct privilege this morning to introduce to all of you Jake Sullivan, a leader whose work sits at the intersection of diplomacy, national security, and global strategy. Over the course of his impressive career, he has served in numerous roles in public service, including as Director of Policy Planning at the State Department, National Security Advisor to Vice President Joe Biden, and Deputy Chief of Staff to Secretary Hillary Clinton. From January 2021 to January 2025, he served as President Joe Biden's National Security Advisor, where he played a pivotal role in shaping U.S. foreign policy, addressing major global challenges such as the Russian-Ukraine war and the Hamas-Israel war. He coordinated international efforts to support Ukraine and helped maintain and strengthen NATO and other key alliances. He was deeply involved in efforts to normalize relations between Israel and Arab states, and he worked to address key aspects of U.S.-China relations, including trade and technology issues. Often when I'm asked to introduce someone, I do a little bit of digging to see if I can find some off-book information, share a piece of information that doesn't appear directly in their bio. So to prepare for today's, what I did is what many of us do. I leveraged the HKS network. Here's what I learned. Despite the positions of authority and responsibility he's held, he's widely viewed as embodying the best version of Minnesota nice. According to one person, he's unfailingly polite and courteous, even under the most stressful of circumstances. And though he demands excellence from his staff, he's known as nurturing and a supportive boss. One illustration of this during his time leading the National Security Council is that each week he handed out one or more signed game balls to his junior staff members, writing the entire NSC staff prior to that each week to detail the winner's exceptional actions to advance the U.S. national interest. I think it takes a remarkable human being to maintain that balance of humanity and empathy, as Prime Minister Ardern reminded us all on Friday, while engaged in incredibly challenging work. And we at HKS are so very lucky that Jake Sullivan joined us just last month as the school's inaugural Kissinger Professor of the Practice of Statecraft and World Order. Having him here will give future generations of students the opportunity to learn from both his experience and his expertise. This afternoon, Jake will be joined by Erica Chenoweth, who is Academic Dean for Faculty Development and the Frank Stanton Professor of the First Amendment here at the Kennedy School. Professor Chenoweth's research focuses on political violence and its alternatives, and they direct the Nonviolent Action Lab, an innovation hub that uses social science tools and evidence to support movement-led political transformation. Among the many hats that Erica wears, they serve as the faculty dean of Fort Sumner House at Harvard College, regularly enriching the lives of Harvard College students there, including delivering annually a full lecture on the art of maple sugaring, complete with a sampling of various syrups created using sap from their very own maple trees. The skills and talents of our faculty truly are extraordinary, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you both Jake and Eric.
Thank you so much, Debbie. And let me add my own welcome to all of you back home to Harvard Kennedy School. It is such a delight to see so many people from all over the place coming back to spend a weekend together in community here. And I'll reiterate Debbie's warm welcome to our new colleague, Jake Sullivan, joined us last month, and really excited to be able to dive in with you. So speaking of Minnesota nice, maybe you can start us off by telling us how you wound up starting your life in Minnesota and becoming the National Security Advisor under President Biden.
So I was told I had 90 minutes to answer this question, so full extended laydown of my life story. First of all, it's wonderful to be here, and I'm really proud to be one of the newest members of this community. And one of the reasons I'm really proud of that is because the minute you walk in here and you start engaging with students, or the faculty, or the staff, or the alumni, there's a kind of spirit and ethos here that's just incredibly generative. And it's, 4 years as National Security Advisor takes a lot out of you, please, and the reservoir, I feel already of just intellectual engagement, basic humanity is being replenished, in just my first few weeks here. So it's really been a thrill to be part of. So I grew up one of 5 kids, public school system in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And in the 1980s, this is the era of Red Dawn, Black and Gold, and I grew up thinking about the United States in the world as a force for good, standing up against, these dark forces of oppression and aggression. And we had a globe on our kitchen table, and when I was a kid, we would all just sort of point at countries and talk about the world my parents were. And thinking I was going to do international relations, and I majored in that. Then I did a master's degree in IR at Oxford, then came back to Yale Law School. While I was at Yale Law School, I had a shift in thinking about where I could actually apply my skills in terms of a career in public service. It was back in Minnesota. I moved home to Berkeley, thinking I'd be there for the long term. And after a year of being an associate in the law firm in Minneapolis, I got a call from Amy Klobuchar, who had just been elected to the Senate, asking me to come out to DC for 4 months at the end of 2006, beginning of 2007. I kept my office. I took a leave of absence from the law firm, and as far as I know, my stuff is still in that office. Because I ended up in DC, then taking opportunities that were before me and returning to kind of my first love of IR and foreign policy. But I've never entirely given up on the notion that a model of public service also involves being rooted in the community. And even as I've tried to boil the ocean, grappling with the whole world. And so as I look ahead, one of the things that I really care about, both in scholarship but also in kind of any future service, is how to make sure we're rooting what we think about in the way of U.S. foreign policy or statecraft in the lived experience of people, around their kitchen tables, what's going to make their lives better, safer, and easier. And that's been very much animating for me in my time.
Yeah. Maybe that's a good segue into maybe a deeper discussion into the contribution you made to understanding the foreign policy of the middle class, which is kind of one of your signature intellectual contributions, we might say, to American foreign policy over the last few years. So can you describe a bit more about what foreign policy for the middle class means and how it changed the priorities of the National Security Council?
One of the things that I was really struck by during my time in the Obama administration was Democrats and Republicans had very different views about domestic economic policy. Whether it was taxation, or social safety net, regulation, you name it. Really big debates that had played out over the course of decades. People are on both sides of those debates, but clearly you could define and identify the distinctions. And somehow in international economic policy, there was really very little distinction, if any, between Democrats and Republicans. So the major international economic initiative of the Obama administration, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, was actually a Bush-era initiative that Obama carried forward. It kind of struck me that was odd, that in a way we had hermetically sealed international economic policy as this thing kind of defined by a set of assumptions and practices that weren't really being contested or debated in a serious way. And so in my years out of government, the first Trump administration, I put a lot of time into thinking about how do you center, yes, international economic policy, but then the overall national security strategy of the United States in, as I was saying before, the lived experience of working people in this country and what's going to deliver for them. And particularly after COVID, it became clear that things we didn't really think about the national security community at all, like supply chains, right? No one was talking about supply chains in 2019. All of a sudden becoming hugely relevant to people's ability to